All right. Good morning, traders, and welcome to Price Plan Profit. In today's live session, we're going to look at the overall markets from a top down approach. I want to talk about what I am expecting in the markets next week, give you some key levels that I will be focused on, and then also talk about potential swing trade opportunities in a variety of different areas of the market. So, just like with my day trade prep every morning, I check the economic calendar. Well, when considering swing trades, I also want to check the economic calendar, looking at planned economic data coming out in the market next week. I can see that Monday is relatively light. We have CB leading index coming out at 10 a.m. Eastern on Monday, and that's about it for us in the US. Then on Tuesday, 8:30 a.m., Powell will be speaking. That can always cause some volatility, of course, as well as the day before, people potentially exiting positions ahead of Powell speaking before the market opens on Tuesday. Then at 10 a.m., we have Richmond Manufacturing Index, and after the bell, API Weekly Statistical Bulletin. On Wednesday, planned data being released would be 10 a.m. new home or existing home sales, crude oil inventories at 10:30 a.m. On Thursday, things get a little more exciting. We have unemployment claims coming out 30 minutes before the market opens, followed by PMI data coming out 15 minutes after the market opens, or 9:45 a.m. Then we have new home sales at 10, natural gas storage at 10:30. On Friday, we have 8:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the bell, core durable goods order month over month, and durable goods orders month over month. So that is the economic calendar for next week. Not super busy, but one thing to note, we are in the heart of earnings season, and so it's always good to pay attention to what is reporting earnings next week. We do have some exciting names reporting. We start off Monday morning before the bell with Verizon, Domino's. You can see here. I like to use earning whispers to get my uh, earnings information. And then Monday after the bell, we have some small banks reporting. Tuesday before the bell, Coca Cola is reporting, DR Horton is reporting, as well as General Motors. Then after the bell, you have names like Enphase, Capital One, Texas Instruments reporting. Wednesday is where it gets a little more exciting for me. You have GE Verona reporting, that's GEV, reporting before the bell. AT&T, I am a equity holder of AT&T, so that is of interest to me. And after the close, big names. You have Tesla reporting on Wednesday after the close, as well as Google reporting after the close, ServiceNow, IBM, Chipotle, Alaska Airlines. Big day here on Wednesday, especially with Tesla, Google, and IBM reporting. On Thursday, you have American Airlines and Southwest Airlines, as well as Union Pacific reporting. Honeywell is reporting on Thursday before the open. Then Thursday after the open, Intel, Deckers, uh, sorry, I couldn't read that one. Uh, Scholastic, that brings me back to when my kids were young. And Friday after the bell, you have some healthcare names reporting, but nothing really that I am going to be paying attention to on Friday. So, big day, the biggest day of the earnings reporting season, in my opinion, is going to be Wednesday after the bell there with Tesla and Google, IBM. All right. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the S&P 500, looking at it first from a weekly time frame perspective. On the week of June the 30th, we created an initial candle. The next week, July 7th, we had an inside candle, and then last week, believe it or not, all of last week we traded within about a 120-point range from low to high. It had some nice movement on certain days, pretty volatile movement, but overall, it really did not move significantly. We did close about 10 points above the top of the body of this initial candle. I am not jumping on board and calling this a demand zone or a buy zone on the weekly candle because the move up was not significant by any stretch of the imagination. But last week I talked every day about, will we print this buy arrow on the weekly chart? And we indeed did print a buy arrow for last week. You can see we're extended from the 9 EMA here on the trendy cloud. That's coming in at about 61.20. So on a pullback next week, if we break below 62.23, 61.20 is the next area of support on the weekly chart. Let's look at the daily chart on ES. Daily chart on ES, my buy zone is down here at 62.72 by 62.40. We have a inside and up that was created on Thursday at or around that key psychological value of 6,300, and that is also where the daily cloud is at. So I would be looking for support here at, oh, geez. Thank you for that. Yes. Sorry, guys. Didn't realize I wasn't sharing my screen. So I will be looking for support here on the daily chart at 6,300, not only because it's a key psychological value, but also because it is a inside and up candle formation, and the 9 EMA is there. So on the daily chart, 6,300 is of importance to me this week. On a pullback to 6,300, once I get confirmation that the pullback is not a falling knife, then I would be looking for higher lows inside of a smaller time frame buy zone or trendy turn signals in that smaller time frame buy zone to potentially go long from that 6,300 level. In the event that we have a deeper pullback, my buy zone on the daily chart, 62.72 by 62.40. The 21 EMA, which a lot of traders use as a gauge and as an entry, is 62.36. So those are the levels that I will be watching on this daily chart. Now let's look at the 4-hour chart on ES and talk about those 4-hour buy zones. All-time high 63.57. That would be a target to the upside, as well as this yellow line, which is an upper weekly edge trendy indicator here. The trendy edges represent a playing field of supply and demand, upper edges being a supply zone playing field and lower edges being a demand zone playing field. So on the 4-hour chart, if we get a pullback to my buy zone of 62.93 by 62.41, my target to the upside will be 63.43 by the all-time high 63.57. So what I was talking about on that daily chart, if we get this pullback, looking at a smaller time frame chart, a 4-hour chart, 2-hour chart, looking for higher lows inside of this buy zone. Okay. Now let's look at the NASDAQ starting from the top down, which for me, we're going to first look at the weekly chart. The NASDAQ had a better move as far as the inside and up goes on the weekly chart. But again, it was not a significant move, significant enough for me to call this a weekly demand zone. I do have the bottom of this zone marked on my weekly chart, 22,582. The next area of support below there would be the 9 EMA at 22,258. My buy zone on the weekly chart remains this upper yearly edge at 21,750 by 21,163 right here. Notice that we have inside and up candle formation all in this area. The trend is to the upside, which leaves me to buy the dip on pullbacks. Okay. On the daily chart for the NASDAQ, I have an inside and up candle formation here, a trendy buy arrow, the 9 EMA, a lot of confluence here at 23,065. That is an important level on this daily chart and an area that I would look for buyers to show up. As far as my official buy zone on the daily chart, I have it here at about 22,850 by 22,582. So a pullback next week into this buy zone is definitely an opportunity for me to look at my watch list and put on some bullish trades, bullish swing trades. But I do need to be prepared on smaller time frames for a pullback that only comes down to 23,065 because of the confluence of support right there. On a 4-hour chart for the NASDAQ, this is my levels that I am most interested in trading. I ran some Fibonacci's here from the low of last week up to the high. This 236 and 38.2 is what in the trendy room we call the bull channel. It is an aggressive approach to getting an entry, and that level is 23, and I'm just going to round up, 23,200 by 23,123. In this zone, if you take a trade to the upside, the first target is the upper weekly edge here on the NASDAQ at 23,262. And then, of course, the all time high being the next target on this 4-hour chart. For me, the buy zone that I have marked for the 4-hour chart, I could use this 50 fib and the golden Fibonacci pullback where I do have inside and up candle formation, or I can wait for price to come back to that official inside and up here at 23,041 and then scaling into a swing trade using these Fibonacci levels on the chart and the bottom of the zone being my stop. Now, because this zone is wide, if I'm taking a trade like this, I would do a starter position up here at the top. And then before adding to the trade, I would wait for that confirmation with higher lows or trendy turn signals inside of this zone. All right. So that is the ES and the NASDAQ. Bitcoin, it had a pullback on Friday and actually on such a bullish name, any sort of pullback I want to be aware of for potential dip buys on a weekly chart measuring fibs from the low in April to the new all-time high. My bull channel is 112,056 by the top of this buy zone on the weekly chart, which is basically 105,000. This would be a pullback buy on the weekly chart, and you can see the 9 EMA is down here inside of this zone. Looking at the smaller time frame, a daily chart, Bitcoin basically chopped all week last week. We came up, we made a new all-time high on Monday, and then Tuesday we had the typical pullback after an all-time high. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we did nothing but sit inside of this range. That range is 120, 300 by approximately 116,000. We did nothing but chop inside of this range. We did get a trendy turn signal to the downside on the daily chart yesterday. This is something to be aware of and a reason why I didn't go ahead and take a trade over the weekend on IBIT, which is what I like to trade Bitcoin futures off of, is using the IBIT ETF. I didn't go ahead and start that trade and carry it over the weekend because of this trendy turn signal on the daily chart, but I will be looking at it on Monday for a potential entry. Looking at the 4-hour chart on Bitcoin, you can see this very choppy condition since we made the all time high on Monday. We pulled all the way back here to 116,000. Then we came up into the golden pocket of this pullback, which proved to be resistance. And we came back up here again on Thursday and the overnight session Thursday into Friday. And again, it was resistance. Now we're pulling back. The lower weekly edge for this week on Bitcoin is 116,957. That is a potential buy the dip opportunity, but I am looking and watching this golden pocket from the rally back here on the first, looks like the 1st or 2nd of July. I measured from this candle here up to the all-time high. It gives me the golden pocket on the 4-hour chart at 114,528 by 112,383. This would be a nice healthy pullback for a variety of reasons. Number one, Bitcoin has just been on a tear and a healthy pullback is necessary in my opinion, for the market to keep climbing on Bitcoin. Now, notice the golden pocket lines up with what would be a gap fill from the 10th of July when we gapped up here. A pullback to this golden pocket area would be a gap fill there and a potential buy zone for me. I also want to take a look at the Dow. The Dow is important and mainly because unlike the ES and the NASDAQ, the Dow has not made new all-time highs yet. This week, it was relatively weaker than the NASDAQ, but it did close and stay between the body of this initial candle from the June 30th candle. The last week we created an inside candle, and this week's candle closed basically where last week's candle did and created a double inside candle formation here. Now, I am bullish the Dow as long as this upper yearly edge by basically 44,200 holds as support. I want to see next week's candle close above there for me to remain bullish on the Dow. If we get a candle close below this level, then I'm looking for support levels at 43,558, followed by 43,178, or a potential pullback to this very nice imbalance candle here on the weekly chart, which is 42,262 by 41,236. Now looking at the daily chart, we created a daily inside and up candle formation at 44,431 by 43,973. The 21 EMA is inside of here, as well as that key upper yearly edge at 42,298, and a monthly edge and a weekly edge. A lot of confluence of support here at this level on the daily chart, and it is a buy the dip opportunity on the Dow or names that trade within the Dow. If it pulls back into this zone, that's when I will be watching for financials, some industrial names, that sort of thing. All right, looking at the 4-hour chart, you're also going to see that we pull back into a 4-hour demand zone with those same other indicators in there. Now, what happened though is that price closed the week below this 4-hour cloud. And when price is below a 4-hour cloud, it would not surprise me to see some further downside inside of this buy zone until price can get above the cloud here at 44,607. As far as the sell zone goes going into next week on the Dow, 44,750 by 45,043 would be the sell zone. So if I'm long from a buy zone, my target is the sell zone. If you are if you're looking for potential areas to short, then shorting from a sell zone and your target would be the buy zone. So that is the three major indexes there from a weekly look all the way down to a 4-hour look. For me, my focus remains to the upside, buying the dip on the leaders in the market and playing that out until this trend were to change to a bearish trend. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't play the downside, but I would only do that on day trades using the PMZ rather than on swing trades. All right. So, next up, I want to look at the where is the strength in the market. I like to use koifin.com. I load up the US sectors and then the US industries that I like to track. I like to look at this from a 3-month look back, a monthly look back, all the way to a 5-day look back. So if I'm adding the industries that I like to track, I just click on the names here and this is going to add these to that chart of relative strength and give me an idea of where money is moving to or from in the market. So these are the industries that I add to the chart. The others I really don't trade, so I don't add them. And most of these have overlap, like the internet sector is going to have overlap in the other sectors that I trade. So, on a 3-month look back, I'm looking at the top 5 areas of the market as far as strength goes. That is semiconductors, metals and mining, tech, the airline industry, and regional banks. The top 5. Nothing changed from last week. Looking at a monthly look back, going back 30 days, the areas of the market that are leading is the airline sector, regional banks, metals and mining, SMH, and actually, at the end of the day yesterday, home builders overtook the tech sector by 0.11%. So when I originally put this out, the tech sector, XLK, was above ITB, but I can see here that they've now flip flopped. From a 5-day look back, this is going to show me potential rotation in the market. So if I have a name on here that is not on my monthly or 3-month look back, then I want to be aware of these names and just track and see, is there actually rotation going on? So utility sector caught my attention because they're not in the list from the further look back. I have that written down for me to watch this week, as well as insurance sector. This is a more defensive area of the market. Just it's not a red flag for me to stay risk on. Rather, it's more I want to be aware of some potential shift into defensive areas rather than the full on risk on areas of the market. All right. So once I know where my focus is going to be as far as sectors in the market, I want to show you, in case you don't know what might be in a specific sector, I want to show you ETFDB. This is where you can look, say that you have no idea what names trade in metals and mining. You can type in XME here, then go over to the left, look at the top 15 holdings in this sector, and that will tell you what names trade within this sector. All right. I already have my bullish watch list pulled up. Aside from SMH, XME, the tech sector, JETS, IWM, aside from those, I did add some utility names to watch this week. And then I want to know what names within the Buzz ETF are looking great for potential pullback buys, and the Innovator ETF, FFTY. So on my bullish watch list, I do have some names from there. Then I think of, where is the talk of the town? What areas of the market are super popular with retail traders, super popular on your social media accounts like Reddit or Twitter, Discord, etc. And the answer is the quantum computing names as well as crypto names. Very, very hot right now to trade. And so I did put some of those names like IonQ, QUBT, RGTI. Those would be some quantum computing names that I put on my list. And then some crypto names that are on my list are IBIT, the Ethereum ETF here, Mara, a crypto miner that I have traded for years. I put Mara on here, and then Riot on here as well. So that is what I have on my watch list for this week. Those areas that are outperforming in the market, plus the buzz type names and social sentiment type names. Now, setting up trade plans for every one of these tickers would be too much. It is just, you can't divide your attention across 40 or 50 names. I like to narrow that list down to 6 to 8 names to watch on for the week. But I also like to have alerts set on the names that I'm not watching potential pullbacks, even if I don't have them on my official focus list. If I am not overly at risk in the market, meaning a percentage of my account, I don't have a high percentage at of money at risk in the market, and one of these alerts goes off on a name that is not necessarily on my focus list, I have the chart, which is the trade plan already planned out for these names, and I can take a trade off of the one of these names that might not have made my focus list. But let's talk about the names that I really want to highlight for this week. The first is Taiwan Semiconductors. That's a part of the SMH, which has been doing really well. I am looking for pullback buys on all of these names. I'm not really a breakout trader, and I'm typically not going long or buying calls at highs. I like to be patient and wait for a pullback. With Taiwan Semiconductors, actually, yesterday in the market, it almost pulled back to my buy zone. Why is this a buy zone on the 4-hour chart for Taiwan Semi? Well, I have an imbalance candle right here. I also have inside and up candle formations right here. So this is a buy zone. 238.39 by 234.15. I look at the risk, which is about $4, the width of this buy zone. Then I want to look at my initial target, which is 245.83. And I can see that from the top of my buy zone to this first target, that's about $7.50. So $4 of risk and $7.50 to my first target is a good enough risk to reward for me to put a trade on Taiwan semis if I get that pullback to the buy zone here on the 4-hour chart. Because I'm looking for a pullback this week, and because I have some two different inside and up zones in here, I would scale into this trade using half of my allocation per trade at the top of this zone, and then adding the other half of that allocation here at 235.92. For me, the stop would be a 4-hour candle close below 234.15, and the targets are 245.83 and the all-time high of 252.99. So for the semiconductors, this is the setup that I have on my focus list for this week. Now I want to go over a couple of names that I would be watching in metals and mining for potential pullback buys. The first one is going to be MP, which has just had an absolute monster move here. I don't want to buy at highs. It's just not the way I trade. We did create a little inside and up candle formation here at about $60.26. But for me, that's not my buy zone. My buy zone's going to come in down here. Now, if I want to use the pullback to this daily cloud that we are very extended from, then I could just put an alert here at or around 51.65, the top of that cloud. I, though, have a zone in mind to trade next week on a pullback, and that would be 48.58 by 46.45. That's where I would like to start the position and then add to it inside of this golden pocket all the way down to 42.58, where I would set a stop. Notice that lines up with this bottoming wick before this big gap. If I'm wrong on the trade and price wants to come down here and fill this gap, I would simply stop out of the trade there, chalk it up as a loss. As far as upside targets go, my first target is going to be here at the upper weekly edge, 62.17, and then the all time high of 64.51. If I need further targets to the upside, I would draw Fibonacci extensions to find to find those targets. All right, so that is MP. It would take a pullback in order for me to initiate a trade on MP. The next name that I want to highlight on metals and mining is UEC. UEC is a uranium play. This is Uranium Energy Corp. Uranium is on fire for sure for a multitude of reasons. It is right at a sell zone though, 838 by 893. Now, I'm not buying going long up here. Rather, I'm waiting for a pullback. So, the first question I ask myself when waiting for a pullback is where is the most immediate support level according to the indicators that I watch? And that answer is $7.27. It's a pullback to the daily 9 EMA. Beyond there, where is my next area of support? It is this monthly edge at or around $7. My buy zone, though, comes in at or around 650 to 503. If you're trading the squeeze 2 days ago, this daily squeeze did fire. But like I said, I was not already in the trade from this buy zone, so I need a pullback before going long. The earliest, the soonest would be a pullback to 7.27 by $6.98, or wait for the lower weekly edge and the bottom of this zone. This zone is wide on a name like MP. One of two things happen if a zone is super wide. I either scale into the zone. Well, actually, I do both of these things. I scale into the zone and I give myself extra time in the trade. So, in the case of UEC, I want to give myself plenty of time in the trade, making sure that there is liquidity, though, and then base my trade off that. So while I would like to buy out to September on the trade, there just isn't the liquidity there, meaning I would choose the August expiration because of liquidity. And as far as strike price that I would choose, I like to choose at the money. So in this case, it would be either the $5 or $6 calls on UEC. And if I look up here, the $5 calls have about 892 open interest. The 600 calls have 2867. I can see looking at the volume that came in on Friday, there's a lot of interest in this name, a lot of volume on the calls here. So, more than likely, I would choose the $6 calls on a pullback into these buy areas. All right. So, moving on from metals and mining, I want to talk about what names I would like to focus on in the tech sector. Now, NVIDIA making new all-time highs. For transparency purposes, I am a owner of NVIDIA equity. My last buy on NVIDIA was at $86. You can see we've gotten trims, and my next trim is 190. So, just for transparency purposes, I want y'all to know that I do have NVIDIA equity and it shared trades in the trendy room. So, now let's look at what a trade plan for next week would look like on NVIDIA. My buy zone is right here. A pullback to 165 to 162. That's my buy zone on NVIDIA. That would be a gap fill where we created an inside and up candle formation. If I treat this like one big imbalance candle from this gap, there would be imbalance here as well as demand here. And I like this zone for a pullback buy on NVIDIA. I will be patient waiting for my alert, then initiate the trade. As far as targets go, the immediate target to the upside is this upper weekly edge by the all time high. Now, if I'm in this trade and I want to trade it out to the August 15th expiration, what type of calls would I be buying? I like to buy at the money, or if it is too expensive at the money, which right now those August 15th at the monies are going for about $8, and the slightly out of the money, $5 out of the money, are more my threshold in price. So, that being said, I look at the delta, it's a delta 47 there. More than likely, I'm buying in this zone. I'm buying either the 165 or the 170 calls. I look at my target. Is it above that 170 strike? And it is. So that would be a alternative option of going slightly out of the money for me if the at the monies are not affordable for me to at least buy 2 contracts. All right. If we make a new all time high, if I'm in this trade, we make it to my first target. I need targets above. Then I simply just use these Fibonacci extension targets that are above price. All right. All right. So that is a trade idea on NVIDIA. I also want to highlight Palantir here that is also at or near all-time highs. The buy zone on Palantir, there's a couple of different options. The first option here on the daily chart is this inside and up candle formation at about 149. That would be a more aggressive type of trade, and if I were trading that trade, I would have a very tight stop on it. And that tight stop would be 147.36. This is more of an aggressive type of trade. But it only has a $2 risk. The initial reward is this upper weekly edge at about 154 by the all-time high of 155.68. So a $2 risk and about a $5 reward is a good risk to reward. But again, this would be more of an aggressive. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. My dog wants out and he's going to start barking. All right. Apologies, apologies, apologies. But he gets pretty yappy if he isn't getting his way. So I had to let him out. So the next buy zone, though, the more conservative buy zone, is down here at 144.82 by 137.39. A lot going on in here. You got a monthly edge, a weekly edge, the daily 21 inside and up with an imbalance candle. This inside and up does not have that imbalance candle. That's why for me, this zone is my preferred zone because an imbalanced candle is indicating to me that there could be unfilled orders down in here, and that would give me a better buy down here. But here is the more aggressive approach as well. All right, so that would be the trade plan for Palantir. Two different trade plans, really. First, this zone, and then this zone down here. Up next, I want to talk about the JETS ETF, and the name that actually made my watch list last week. Price almost came down to my trigger, but it didn't. And so my order was not filled, and we're going to go back to the drawing board. And when I say the order was not filled, um, my order was setting at 54.80, and price came so very close, as in 9 cents away. But it didn't fill, so I'm back at the drawing board, and honestly, price isn't doing much here. It's just chopping. Looks like yesterday we touched that 9 EMA and buyers definitely stepped in. So back to the drawing board. 54.80 is still where I'd like to start a position and then add to it here in this golden pocket. And now I would be targeting for my first target is going to be 57.88, and then next targets is 60.11, 63.83, and 66.82. A stop for me is a daily candle close below 53.42. Now, this is an airlines, and remember when I was talking about earnings that are coming out this week, both American Airlines as well as Southwest Airlines report. and this name can be affected. Sorry, had to get a drink of water there. So just keep that in mind. The risk on the trade would be about $1.50, and the reward from my entry would be about $3. Not bad at all. And of course, if we take out 57.88, which is the upper weekly edge, and we make it up into my target zone up here, then the reward would be that much better. All right, so Delta Airlines is my focus in the JETS ETF for this week, like it was last week. Now, regional banks, the way that I like to trade it is through the IWM, and I had a order in here or a potential order in here for last week or the week before, I forget, but, I did not get an I didn't get in the trade. Why didn't I enter the trade? Because of this trendy turn signal. And then here we wicked down below my buy zone, and that made me extra cautious. And unfortunate that it made me extra cautious. The fear of breaking this zone and heading all the way down to 214.62 by 212.70 kept me out of the trade, when in reality, had I entered the trade as I had mapped out, I would have been rewarded. So that's an example of how, goodness, I allowed fear to keep me out of a trade that would have returned profits. Now, let's talk about a trade plan for this week on IWM. I'm erasing all of that off. As far as my sell zone or supply zone, I need to know what is up and to the left of 226. So I'm going to draw a line like that, and then I'm just going to work my way over and look at candle structure here above that high that was created. You see the inside and down right here. That's going to give me a target zone for a trade on IWM, basically 228.85 by 230.70. That's going to be my target zone to the upside on IWM. If you're wondering why did price stop there at 226.05, do you see the inside and down candle formation and a big imbalance candle right here? That, my friends, is why there were unfilled orders in here. So people were looking to sell in here. And when price got up to this imbalance candle and order sales were going on the books, price fell. All right. So I do want to mark this as a resistance area, and that'll give me some targets before my actual target zone. As far as buying the dip goes here, you have an inside candle, and this candle moved up, right? So your buy zone would be about $5, no, $4 wide here. That's a wide zone, but but looking at the up candle, it really didn't move that much. All right. So, with that being said, I am more interested in not trading this zone. Rather, I want to look down to the left, more down at the bottom of this formation and look at the inside and up that occurred right in here and look at my trendy edges, the lower weekly, the yearly mid, and the upper monthly. That is how I want to build a buy zone on IWM. The Russell has been lagging behind. So if I'm looking for a pullback next week, I want to be more conservative with my buy zone on the Russell than maybe what I would be on the NASDAQ. So for IWM this week, a buy zone to buy the dip is going to be here 217.83 to 212.70, a risk of $6. My first initial target is going to be this upper weekly edge. So now I need to ask myself for say $5 risk, right? $5 risk, reward $6.50. It's not the best risk to reward, but it is at least a 1-for-1 to my first target. And then, of course, my ultimate target up here at 228, that would be a much better risk to reward up there. So, on IWM for this week, I'm looking at a buy zone of 217.83. I'm using the lower weekly edge there. Then adding to this position at this double stack of edges right around 215, 216. Stop being a daily candle close below 212.70. I need to give myself plenty of time in this trade. So I would be looking at the August monthlies, right? Not trading off a daily chart and only picking next week's expiration. I can see I've got plenty of open interest, especially at that 220 level. Um, so the 220s might be a slightly out of the money, but it might provide the best liquidity. 215s, you have a lot of liquidity. So I would either choose the 215s or the 220s here. Okay. And that's how I would trade IWM for a potential swing trade next week. Now let's look at some fun names that are super popular right now, and let me give you some levels that I will be watching for to trade them. I'm going to start with Ion Q. Lower weekly edge down here near 41.64. The buy zone 41.21, 36.03 as far as targets go. If we get down into this zone, this upper yearly edge would be a target. All right. Then upper weekly edge target, and my target zone, my ultimate zone here is 48 to, we're going to round up and say 55. All right, so I would be waiting for a pullback on Ion Q and then target, target, ultimate target. All right, that gives me a risk of approximately 4.5, 5, sorry, $5. Depending on how deep we go in this zone would determine the first reward here. But if we just come to the top of this zone, then, right, because it's lower weekly edge, my target is upper weekly edge, then it's about just over $5 reward. And then obviously inside of this sell zone here, much better reward. All right. So that is Ion Q buying the dip down near 41.64. Uh, next name that is very hot right now in this quantum space is QUBT. Now, I want to mention here that I do not like to over allocate in one area of the market. It's real easy to get super excited about quantum names, and then you find yourself in three or four positions related to quantum names. That has proven to be not a good idea in the past as far as a solid risk management plan goes. So for me, if I get in Ion Q, I'm not going to continue looking at QBTS or QUBT or RGTI. I'm going to take one, possibly two names, but not all of these names would I be in trades at the same time. For QUBT, the buy zone is at about 1770 to 1550. First target would be the upper weekly edge at 1978 by the monthly edge of 2049. Then I'm looking at 2188 and finally upper yearly edge 2405. That gives me a risk of approximately $2 and my initial reward is also $2 to $3. Then $5, and finally, 6.5 to $7. So QUBT, that would be my trading plan, and I would scale in to this name. It is in a daily squeeze right now. Momentum is shifting to the upside. So for that reason, I personally like this name better than Ion Q, but both are valid setups. QUB, sorry, QBTS is another quantum name. It has a beautiful move. It was squeezing. It has fired two bars. The buy zone for me is 1591 to 1476. Some targets to the upside on this name is 1830 by $19, then 1977 on QB. TS. That 1977 is an all-time high. So if I were looking for upside targets above the all-time high, I would run Fibonacci extension tool from where this nice rally began and run it up into, I like to use somewhere around the 38.2 extension, then the 618 extension, and finally the 100 extension. So that's going to give me extension targets all the way from 2123 to 2420 on QBTS. All right. So that would be my plan there. Then RGTI, I actually have equity in this name, but it is right at a supply zone. This is an upper yearly edge and then the all-time high 2142. As far as a pullback buy zone, notice the inside and up. Again, this would be an imbalance candle and an area that I love to trade a bounce off of. So my buy zone is 1380 by 1208. Then my first target's going to be here at about 1679 by that 1722 to 2142. So this would be the pullback buy on RGTI. I would set my stop as a candle close below $12 because of this monthly edge mid there. All right. So that covers the quantum names that I would look at. I went over, or I can't remember if I went over IBIT, but let's talk about I went over Bitcoin, and let me talk about where I would be interested in trading IBIT from. The first level that I want to mark for a buy is 66.18 because that's the lower weekly edge. Then this golden pocket of this rally, 65.55 to 64.11 would be my next area to buy the dip. Cube IBIT is in a daily squeeze. Now, momentum over the last 4 days has been trending down. What I would like to see is this thing round out and then momentum go back to the upside. You want to give yourself time in the name so that you can set through number one, a pullback and consolidation potentially. All right. But my areas to buy the dip on IBIT is 66.18 to 64.11. That's about $2 of risk. And as far as reward goes, this 618 here is the first initial target. 68.43 buy this inside and down candle formation. Next target would be about 69 to 69.31 and then all-time high 70.07. All right. So that is a trade idea for Bitcoin using IBIT to trade it. Another name that in the crypto space that has been interesting is ETHA. This is ETF to trade Ethereum. The buy the dip, the immediate thing that sticks out to me is you had a beautiful inside gap up right here, 24.05 to 22.24. This is my buy zone for this week. Upper weekly edge would be the would be the first target, followed by the ultimate target up here at upper yearly edge by all-time high 29.26, 31.18. And let me see, make sure that that is indeed, yes, that is indeed 31.18 is the all-time high there. All right, so that's Ethereum. Um, Mara, Riot's a couple of names that you could look to trade from this space. Yearly edge mid lining up with a lower weekly edge. You got a beautiful inside and up candle formation right here as well. Well, no, you don't have an inside and up there, but 1235 is the yearly edge mid. And then the actual buy zone would be here at 1093 to 1181 on Riot. When I have a situation like this, I will just start a position at that level that is slightly above the buy zone, and then I add the full allocation in the buy zone. So at least I have some uh, foot in the door there. And then as far as target zones above this 1387, I want to look at this beautiful inside and imbalance down right there. That would give me the target zone. So, not surprised if Riot has a pullback from this supply zone here. And I will have an alert in place to buy the dip if given the opportunity. All right. Again, first opportunity for me would be here at about 1235. Then the buy zone would be where I'd add the full allocation, stop below 1093, and I'm targeting the upper weekly edge by this sell zone or supply zone here at 1419 to 1587 on Riot. Mara is another name like I said, that I like to trade around this crypto space. I can see here the yearly edge mid by this inside and down candle formation, but also this one right here. This would be my target zone on Mara if I were long from a buy zone. All right, let's put that as red. Buy zone, where are you at? Well, the most immediate area is the lower weekly edge and the top of the cloud here. Okay. But look at this inside and up candle formation. This is a buy zone. Okay. You guys, I'll get to your questions here in 1 second. I, of course, value your questions. So if you have any questions and you're watching me live, put those in the chat now. Or if you're watching this on replay and you have a question, you can put it in the comments. I always personally answer all comments. Because I value each and every one of you. So here would be the play on Mara. Buying the dip at the earliest 1890. This buy zone 1798 to 1587. First target 2117, then 2361, 2539, and 2807. All right. So I think I covered all the names that I really want to focus on. I do want to mention RCAT. That's a drone company. In the trending room, we have been in this equity. We first bought equity on this name at, I believe, $6.50. Yeah. And then we added at $4.60. So we're in equity. We trimmed yesterday over $12 on that equity. So you can see even from 650 the first initial buy, it's almost a double, but definitely way over a double on where we added equity at. But it also is a viable trade to trade options off of. And the buy zone would be here at 699 to 458. The next target above where price is at is 1330 and then 1527. Above there, you got blue open skies all the way up to 2364. And the actual weekly supply above where price is at right now is 36 to 66. So our cat has some room to move, but it's very obvious to me if I were buying this zone here, I need to give myself plenty of time, as in this thing would have to move like $30 in order for me to hit this target zone. With a monthly ATR of about $3, that's a 10-month minimum. So this would be more of a leap trade. But I did want to mention it in this session. So I would want to buy at least 12 months, and they do not have June 2026 options right now. So I would have to go out to these January 2027. So I'd really be buying about 18 months of time, but you can see we got plenty of liquidity at this strike and this expiration date. So this is a potential leap trade from 7 to $4.50 on that buy zone. And then these would be my targets. Again, I also want to mention that I am watching XLU, the utilities company, our companies just to see if we've got some rotation. The names that I like to trade that are in bullish trends right now are Duke. Duke is been chopping forever and ever. It is actually in a high compression daily squeeze. Target would be, of course, right here at the top of this chop, but above there, I would be targeting 120 by 124. All right. I like to trade Duke. I also, Dominion is another option for this space. The buy the dip zone, the lower weekly edge is here at 56.47. Let's just call it 56.50. But the buy zone for me is 55.51 to 53.36 at first initial target 58.39, and then the sell zone 59.82 to 61.97. Another name that I love to trade is Nextera. I also own equity in Nextera. The buy zone for Nextera is 73 to 67.5, and the target zone 78.82 by 83.84. Southern is another good name to trade in the utility space, and Southern is really on fire. It is in supply here as we didn't close above 94.45. But if we can get above that 94.45, close above there next week, Southern could be off to the races. It does report earnings at the end of July, but the buy zone on Southern, on this weekly time frame would be here at or around 89.70 by 87.49, and then blue skies above, because of the all-time high. All right, guys, now I am going to answer your questions here in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, you can put those uh, questions that you have in the comments. Before I go any further, I always forget to mention this, but I've got over 30 people watching right now, only 16 likes. Can y'all do me a favor and take like 2 seconds and hit the like button? I'm a new channel, right? I just started the YouTube channel at the 1st of June, and I need the likes and comments to bump my algorithm to get noticed on YouTube. All right. All right. So hit the like button, please, please, please. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let me get to your questions. First off, good morning to all of you. Lots of good mornings in here. Mike, Ivan, Deepak, Andy, Stephen, Gary, John, Hamez, Anna Marie, Mike, Andy. Yeah, lots and lots. Good morning to all of you. Uh, thanks, Tim. Cute dog. That is my 16-and-a-half-year-old Chihuahua that's driving me crazy. Stephen, yep, United Airlines reported on the 14th. Yeah. American and Southwest are the ones reporting this week. Stephen, Mara Riot, CLSK. I would suggest you consider CLSK over Mara. Mara was early in the space, but not liked in the crypto circles. CLSK has a better reputation as a more efficient miner. We can take a look at CLSK. Absolutely not opposed to that for sure. I don't trade this one, but let's take a look. Daily squeeze fired 1 bar yesterday. Or sorry, that's a weekly squeeze. Let me take a look at the daily chart, which is really the chart I like to trade. If I look up and to the left on CLSK, I'm going to get a sell zone or a supply zone here at 1477 by 1625. That would be an upside target. Okay. Now, let's find where the buy zone would be. It's right here, inside and up, clear as day right there. 1182 to 1109 on this daily time frame is the buy zone. Now, I like to scale out of trades on the way to target, locking in profits and moving my stops to break even. So if I'm buying down here, my first target is right here at 1347. Then I'm targeting 1477, this yearly edge mid at about 15 and a half, and ultimately 1625. So buying the dip here, trimming, and this is my target. Okay. Gary asks, sometimes you use the 4 hour chart and sometimes the daily. What determines which one to use? Gary, it depends on which one. Like if I see, I always start by looking at a daily chart. Let me see where's one. Okay, DAL. I always start by looking at the daily chart. Okay. And then I go down in time frame if I do not have a candle structure. I want to find a candle structure on a lower time frame that gives me confirmation, right? That inside and up candle structure on a smaller time frame that gives me the confirmation to buy the dip on the lower time frame. If I have a name like TSM where I would trade it off of a 4 hour chart rather than a daily chart, this will be a good example for you. Notice that, sorry, notice that the daily chart, I just don't have the candle structure here because of the gaps to give me a good zone to buy. But if I look at this 4 hour chart, I have this beautiful imbalance candle that makes me trade off of this 4 hour chart. Okay. Even though I would much prefer to trade off of a daily chart, the first area, technical area that I have to buy is 235.90. But notice at this 4 hour imbalance candle that has not been tested, there's my buy zone. There is the zone I want to buy the dip at. And that's what determines it. I always start by looking at daily charts. And then if I see, okay, I want in on this price action, I'll go down to a 4 hour. And if I see a nice imbalance candle with an inside candle followed by an up candle, that's my baby. And that's where I'm going to look to buy the dip. Pop and drop. Good morning. Pop and Drop asks, do you trade options or only stocks? Oh, Pop and Drop, I trade both. So mainly for equity, I am, those are long term trades. And when I say long term, I'll show you the current trades in the trendy room that I've shared the chart, shared the entries and exits for. These are all equity trades. Sometimes I will trade leap options off of them. But for the most part, my equity trades are all long term, meaning I don't ever get completely out of the shares. I am buying at levels and I am selling at levels, and I keep some sort of position the whole time. So, all of these names, we have been trading. This is just for this year. These are just the charts that were shared with the members in the trendy room. So, yeah. But for swing trades, like trades I plan to be in for 2 days to 2 months, those are gonna be options. Okay. Quang, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. What's the trading system you stick to mostly? Supply and demand and price action? What type of price action did you learn? AI, Brooks, ICT, smart money, concept? Supply and demand is my go-to. And definitely price action. I am aware of the macroeconomics that can affect the market. I'm aware of when those reports and things are coming out, but I am a technical trader through and through. I believe that it's important to trade the technical levels on the charts and not emotions. So, technical levels for sure, price action type of trader. And where did I learn? Well, as far as the supply and demand trading, I learned from Trendy John. Uh, about 3 years ago is when I started trading supply and demand with him. And yeah, I absolutely could not trade without it. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Oh, no. No, I will Quang, I will absolutely go short. But my first consideration for it going long or short for swing trades is going to be the overall trend of the market. So let me just show you on a blank chart without my drawings, okay? So when we started this year, we were up at supply. Okay. So, but the market was bullish in a bullish trend. Once that trend changed and we became a bearish trend, my swing trade ideas were to the downside, short the rip. All right. So the first thing I consider is the overall trend of the market. Then everyone likes a good short, right? Because honestly, uh, shorts pay quicker and better than longs. So if we're in a bullish trend, but I want to be flexible, nimble, what have you. I save my short the rip opportunities for day trading. Okay. And I'm going to give you an example. This indicator right here is a trendy proprietary indicator. It's called the PMZ. This was a perfect short opportunity for a day trade. The way we trade this is price below the pre-market zone, the PMZ, trigger short. This paid nicely all the way down to this target, right? So I will short the market. I have no problem shorting the market. But if the market is in a bullish trend, I'm going to save my short setups for day trading. Okay. Darren asked, hi, Mel. Hi, first off. Can you give me your take on MSTR long term? I have January 2027 leaps. Thanks. Oh, DMC. Now I know your real name, Darren, but I'll forget tomorrow. Don't worry. All right. MSTR, you bet. Long term. Now, MSTR had a pretty nice little pullback there. So long term. DMC, right? I'm first going to look at the quarterly chart. A lot of people don't look at quarterly charts. Heck, people don't even look at monthly charts. So right away on this quarterly chart for long term, this is the target to the upside. That's your upper yearly edge by the all-time high. Okay. Buy zone right here. Well, that's a yearly edge mid, and I really don't even I wouldn't even have to put these zones on here because here's your lower yearly edge, right? But we're gonna put them on here. All right. So you're already in this trade. So really what you're looking for, I would assume, is targets to the upside. So ultimately for this year, 487 to 543. All right, let's go down to a monthly chart. Nothing really changes. I have a monthly buy zone though up here. See the inside and then up. You got a topping wick here so far in July, but you had topping wick here. You had a topping wick back in May, which is creating an inside candle. I would watch price action here in July, but overall, since the market bottomed in April, if I draw fibs on that move, look, here's your bull channel. If this continues to hold as support, DMC, um, I personally would stay in the trade, especially because right here at the bottom of that bull channel, you have this inside and up on the monthly. So I would pay special attention to 367.89 as a bull. I want to see that hold as support. If I'm in a position to the upside, I want to see that hold as support. The 9 EMA on the monthly, we're extended from it. This is where we're at. Here's your 9 EMA. Price needs to come down and test it, but it has recently tested the 9 EMA on the monthly. And you can see the moving averages are sloping up and sloping up nicely. So we could just be in for some chop up in here at this topping wick, and the EMAs catch up. Now let's look at the weekly. Yeah, yep, nothing changes on this weekly chart. That's still my target to the upside. This monthly demand here, you have a weekly demand and the weekly 9 EMA here at 389.78. But remember, I said I stay bullish this name definitely, as long as price holds 367.89. The bottom of that weekly demand zone though would be about 358. So somewhere 367.89 to 358. I stay bullish MSTR if I'm in the position for the long haul. Okay. Quang, I can say that yes, I use Fibonacci. Absolutely, 100%, quite a bit. We got several traders in here, Quang, that are from the Trendy Trading Room at Simpler Trading, where my trading partner, Trendy John, and I trade live Monday through Friday, and where we teach live Monday through Friday. And Trendy John is very, very active with day trading and scalp trading, options, equity, and futures. So I'd invite you to come and hang out with us in the trendy room. Right now, we have a 30-day trial for only $7. And just come and hang out. Now, Trendy John is on vacation until August 4th, but I'm still in the room talking about day trades and scalp trades. The first hour of the market open, that is our focus, is day trades and scalp trading. And then after that hour is when we look at more swing trading or answering questions and things like that. So come and check us out. If you like trading based on supply and demand, or you like trading based on Fibonacci, and you like trading technical levels on the chart and price action, come check us out in the trendy room. All right. It looks like I got through all the questions, got through the market analysis. Just to recap, guys, the market is bullish. I am focused on buying the dip in this bullish market in the areas of the market that are currently outperforming. And I have given you several mini names and the buy zones, the buy the dip areas that I would be interested in going long, as well as my targets. The range I'm watching for next week on the S&P 500, bulls need to protect 6223.25. Below there, the next area of support, 6126.40. Of course, the immediate resistance is the all-time high that we recently made. As far as some extension targets on the ES, where we could possibly go into the end of next week if we make new all-time highs. I would just measure from last week's low to last week's high, and that will give me some target extension targets to the upside. The next target for me on ES above the all-time high would be 6,400, then 64.30, and finally 64.75-ish. All right. All right. I believe that is it. I will see you in the trendy room Monday morning if you're a member. If not, come join us. Check it out. Go to simplertrading.com, search for the trendy room, and you will find the link to that trial that I mentioned. Y'all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you again on Monday.